What's up? What's up? What's up, everybody? It is Thirsty Smurfing Thursday. I'm going to welcome everyone aboard the Soul Train. I hope you enjoyed the video of our podcast that came out. If you don't know what I'm talking about Burn and Return. If you've never listened to Burn and Return, that is on you, my friend, and that is an absolute problem. It's on all your favorite podcast apps. In fact, we put our Thirsty Thursdays on our podcast apps too. And so that way, while you're out grinding in your day job, you can throw us in the earbuds while you're mowing lawns, pulling soil samples, sending emails to customers, processing invoices, spraying yards, kissing babies, and all the other fun stuff that you do while you're out in the world. That's why we do that. Anyway, we mentioned another YouTuber by name in the title. It was said, what was the title? Ron Henry. That claim is not on the label. I think it was, and it was
Yes.
controversial. We had
Mhm.
actually we only have one person get mad at us about the Ron Henry part. And then there was a little bit of just more like public policy and some what I thought was actually pretty good discourse on that.
Yes,
And
that other guy.
but
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, he wrote a lot. He had a lot to
Mhm.
say, but it was funny because you could tell he actually put thought into every aspect of it. And I was like, well,
Yes.
even though I don't agree with it, I can appreciate the fact that he put that much thought and effort into it.
Mhm.
And it's okay to disagree, right? There was some of it I did agree on. There was some of it I didn't agree on, and I thought it was
Yeah,
great
yeah,
actually.
same. Yeah,
Yeah.
same. I mean, I thought some of it was good, some of it was, "I'm not too sure about that,"
Yeah,
because,
yeah.
you
I don't
know,
know.
I mean, because but then you see, in the end, he did agree that, you know, what has to happen is a reasonable answer and
Sure.
a compromise that there's not going to be winners and losers. Because
Yeah.
you see, Matt, when I hear somebody make the statement winning, I actually want to pound them. When somebody makes that statement winning, I want to pound them out because that mentality does not help solve problems. That makes things worse.
Yeah. Wait. Do we have
Mhm.
another one here? Where did this one come from? He does IT. He just needs to stick to that. Seems nice. Just incorrect surf advice. Luvendi had a nice comment there. I thought that was actually pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is what it is, and but anyway, by the way, we have a guest tonight, lawn care monster, Matt. How the hell are you doing, sir?
I'm doing well. How are y'all doing?
Good.
We're good.
Matt, if you can't hear it, he's another Southern boy, by the grace of God, and so excited that he is on the show tonight. I don't have to hear any garbage ass accents. I get to hear people more near and dear to my heart, even though he is from the state of Kentucky. And I think everybody knows how I feel about the state of Kentucky. But you know what? There are diamonds in the rough, and Matt is a diamond in the rough. And
There's good
anyone who
people
can
there, right, Matt?
survive that many years in damn
Yes.
Madisonville, Kentucky, deserves all the awards and good graces because my goodness, what a part of the country that place is. Everybody talks about when they think Kentucky, they think Appalachia. No, man, you need to go experience Western Kentucky. That's an experience over there.
It's beautiful here. I love taking the fall drives. We'll go out. My family and I will go out for at least an hour, 2 hours drive, just driving to the middle of nowheres. In western part of Kentucky. It's just beautiful.
So are you from there? Born and raised?
No, I was actually born in Florida, and then I moved to Indiana for a while. But I have grown up here a good part of my life. I moved away and then I came back to Madisonville, and I've been here probably since '07. I've been back here in
Oh,
Madisonville,
okay.
so this is where I reside now.
Okay. Okay. How old are
All
you?
right.
I am 36.
Oh, yes. I'm 37, so we're the same age. Um,
Yeah,
I hear you
Yeah,
there.
not bad.
Where at in Florida? Were you in the Panhandle or were you further south?
Newport Richie.
Newport Richey. Okay. Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah. I got some family there.
Clearwater, right there by Clearwater.
Mhm,
hmm
mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah, so
I didn't get to
on mom's
experience
side of the
all of
family.
it because I had left a little
Yeah, yeah.
bit. I probably left before I was like,
Okay, okay.
yeah.
Was it military or, just y'all were just
Nah,
moved
just
around?
family moved. Yeah, just my family had lived
I
down
hear
there
you.
working and stuff, and so that's where all my family was from.
When did you get into lawn care?
So I didn't know how I was gonna bring this up, but I guess the shortest answer, I'll try to give a short answer. Um, when I was we moved in Massville, and we had it was a nice neighborhood, and the lawn just wasn't satisfactory. And so,
Mhm.
I had started researching, and shout out to, Pete Danny. I had found his videos, and so
Yep.
the more I got into it, the more I started finding, Matt, the grass factor, and I
Sorry.
got into, fertilizing and stuff. And so that was, when I redone my lawn, uh, I had been watching a lot of YouTube videos. And when I done it, it was the satisfaction when I walked out and I seen this nice, beautiful green lawn. And I was like, this really feels amazing to walk out of a nice home and have a nice lawn. Because around here, people have really nice houses, but they really don't care about their lawns. And so
Mhm.
I was like, if I can make people feel the way I feel about the lawns, then that would be my ultimate goal. And so when I started mowing lawns, I keep that in mind. So that way I never lose the where I started. You know what I'm saying? So it's like I want people to love their lawn, like they love their home and have a beautiful lawn. They can go out and drink coffee out on their porch and enjoy a nice green lawn. And that's what my goal is. Every time I meet somebody, that's what I tell them. I'm gonna treat your lawn like I treat mine because I want you to feel the same way I felt about mine. And that's kind of how it all started. About 3 years ago, 4 years ago, I actually started getting into the business, but I actually renovated my lawn probably about 6 years ago, I guess it was.
No, I love it, and I have to say that I feel like the people who not just get into it, but really stick it out in this industry, there is something about that, visual impact of the before and after,
Mhm.
that it hits them in a well, you phrase it this way, at least in a spiritual way, right? And
It
and
does.
it's something that lingers and it lasts with you, and it makes you appreciate the world around you a little bit more, right?
It does.
And I would say easily, without a doubt, that turf uh, for certain saved my life. I was definitely on no sort of good trajectory until I had the experience. And for me, it was on the golf course, right? And having that experience of seeing that come together was just nutty, right? And watching grass grow in, it was nutty. And then being able to take it from 3-inch Bermuda grass to a half-inch super tight Bermuda grass, it was nutty, and it did something inside my brain that I don't know. And I always refer to this, my favorite part. There's always those few days of a year as an applicator, or no matter what side of the business you're in, there's a few days a year where you are on either a lakefront property or just a nice ass property in the woods. Everything smells perfect. The birds sound perfect. The sun is perfect. The temperature is perfect. And it is so impactful. It makes the entire year of people calling you lawn boy or whatever else happens through the course of the year completely worth it. And it can be like 2 moments a year that are so impactful that will draw you in for 363 days out of the 365. It's nuts. I don't think there's any other
It
industry like that in the world.
it is so much satisfaction, and just like you said, it does something to you. But meeting the people who care so much about your lawn, I love talking to them. Sometimes I get involved in too much talking to them, but it's like when people feel
I
that
know how that
you
goes.
love their lawn just as much as they love their lawn, then it's like you have that connection with them. People here don't want to feel like that you're just coming and mow and go. They want to feel like you're taking pride in their lawn just like you would your own. And that's if I ever lose that in my business, then I've lost it. And that's probably when I'll stop. But whenever I leave a lawn and I turn back and look and say, man, really proud of that. I really love the
Mhm.
way, that turned out. I really love the way those weeds, are gone. Looks so much better. The fertilizer, it's greening up, like you wanted it to. That's what it's all about. And people walk around their lawn and walk around their subdivision and people are looking at it. It's not so much pride, but you feel good that you're making the owner and other people feel good about their space around them. Does that make
Mhm.
sense? And and
Yep.
and
Oh,
that's
yeah.
that's ultimately, honestly, how I feel about the business that I'm in, and I want to keep doing that. I don't want to ever get to a place where I'm doing this for the paycheck at the end of the week, or I'm doing this because I have nothing else to do. I have something else to do that's a whole lot easier than running a lawn care business, but the impact that I want to make on people's lawn is what I love
Yeah.
No, I
That that
think I
that's
think
that's
that's
your reason.
commendable as hell. Go ahead, Ray. I
That's
didn't mean to cut you off.
no, that is your reason. That is your reason for doing this because, yeah, I mean, for me, it is something different when you can look back and you can say, "Okay, I did this." You know, I did this. It looks good, and it's also a special feeling when you look around in that neighborhood and what you did stands out. It looks different, and in a good way. That's a good feeling. I mean, I always tell people when they ask me, "Oh, don't you advertise, do this, do that, do other," and I tell them my only advertisement is I don't want to be embarrassed to be seen walking into that property. That's
That
it.
would be really bad.
I've I've had a few of those moments. I'm not gonna lie. There have been times I have not left a flag in a yard because I don't want anyone to know that I treat that yard.
That's
I've
so
done that.
funny.
I've done that more times than I could count, and to be honest, that's like one of the reasons why I'm glad I'm on this side of the industry now instead of still on that side because a lot of I would say that my number one mistake that I continue to make over and over was my level of emotional investment in every customer, right? Not only would I be emotionally invested into the customer, but also the property itself, right? And I kind of treated them as one and the
Mhm,
same. And so I would end up getting myself into I would make bad business decisions based off emotions too
Mhm.
frequently. And
Mhm.
it's like, okay, if I could I have continued to grow my business in that path? Yes, I could have, but it just would have been more and more painful as it went on, right? Because at some point you have to detach emotionally, and then as you get bigger, then you have to detach even more emotionally, and then as you get bigger, you have to detach even more emotionally, right? And then the further that I detached emotionally, it began it just it wasn't enjoyable anymore, right? And I'm lucky now that on this side I still get that fulfillment because I get to work with the people that I get to work more on the creative side of things, right? And not so much just being deeply intimately personal with people on their own homes, and I think there is something with that emotional connection comes that when you're visiting people on their home, on their driveway, around their cars,
mhm.
with keys to their gates and everything else that you have with you, I mean, it's not it's different, right? And there's a completely different connection there, and so it gets touchy sometimes. And so anyway, that as a struggle of mine, I'm glad I don't have to deal with that anymore because it's so much easier to not be so emotionally invested with every customer on a deeply personal level, like in their home kind of thing, right? None of my
Right.
customers that I have right now, have I ever been in their home or at their home. I don't even know what their house looks like, and I'm thankful for that because
That's a good thing.
it
That
would
can do
change the name of the game, right?
Mm.
You know. So Matt, you're on here, and we were talking about a little bit in the show that one of the things you were interested in doing was doing like an all-in-one type of package. But I wanted to open it up to you. You wanted to come on. Is there what are some highlights of some things you want to cover tonight that we can help you with? At least attempt to.
Well, yeah, for sure. I'll go over a couple things that I kind of have written down. My program needs to be tightened up a little bit, and I'm here to take some criticism on the products I use. Um, One of them, I asked a question the other day about Q4. I'm definitely getting ready to that now. Probably
Yeah.
won't be using that no more after what you said the other night about it. So, but basically, the main things I have one Bermuda
Uh-huh.
that I would like to go over more in depth because it's a lot different than it is than taking care of a fescue lawn.
Okay.
And so the main maybe if we go over that one at the end of the talking about the fescue lawns, that would be great. Or if you want to hit that one first, you got any
Uh
preference?
Up to
Yeah,
you.
I mean,
Up to you.
yeah,
Uh,
we'll do the Bermuda one second because we're actually going
Okay,
to tee it up with the fescue.
mm,
So all right,
okay.
how many
So
rounds do you do on fescue?
so I started with 7. Seems to be more comfortable for me, and I
Okay,
have it down here, and I got some prizes and stuff I use. I just didn't know what you was getting into or what you
well,
wanted to
we can
know.
get into whatever
But
you want.
basically, what I wanted to tell you was I start off with Stonewall,
Hmm.
and we'll start there. Um,
mhm,
some people say don't split it, some people do. I've always split mine, and I've got pretty good results with Stonewall. Some people say split it, or use a full rate of that, and then go in with Dimension.
Yeah, don't do that.
Um,
no, don't do that. Don't.
I've heard that, so I've stuck with Stonewall with the fertilizer mix, and
Mhm.
so
So granular.
um, granular, correct.
Okay.
Keep it
It's
simple.
actually Stonewall 0, 43% plus
Uh huh.
fertilizer, if that helps you out. Um,
Yep.
Yep.
and I moved all my products from Site One to Advanced Turf Solution. That's where I get all my stuff at now.
Okay.
Um, and
What
my rep,
fertilizer analysis do you have on that prodiamine?
what? Say
Does
it
it
again.
typically come? Does it come on like a 1404, an 1106, an 007?
I do not have it. If you give me a minute, I can pull it up, but I do not have it in front of me at the moment.
Yeah, yeah. If you don't mind, go ahead and pull that up. Um,
Okay.
and I'll talk while you pull that up. So there's a couple things, right? I think number one is that yes, 100%. Split apps, in my opinion, makes the most sense. And the reason why is that if you make any mistake in your first application, chances are your second application, you're going to be able to cover that up. So that kind of redundancy helps. The other thing too is extending that duration of control because prodiamine followed by prodiamine has a compounding complementary effect. And then, and I want to make this extremely clear. Prodiamine followed by Dimension offers you nothing additional. The only thing that you would get additional out of Dimension would be if you applied single use max rate and sprayed it as a liquid. Uh, Dimension does not couple on top of prodiamine. It is not going to make prodiamine last any shorter. And then if you start doing a max rate of prodiamine followed by a max rate of Dimension, then that would effectively be running like 2x the rate, max rate of prodiamine. Because even though they're the same mode of action, the two different AIs do not compound each other. They do not complement each other. So they're not adding to, but you're just getting the full effect of one followed by the full effect of the other. And think about that. It's the same mode of action, right? And so effectively, you would be doubling up on a single use max rate. And that is going to end up creating problems for you at some point. You may get away with it for a period of time, but at some point when the conditions are there and happening, it will create a problem for you. Don't do that. Where I like to use dimension is if I pick up a customer in round 2 or round 3 and it is my first application on the lawn, then I will spray single use max rate dimension because of its potential, if sprayed with a surfactant, to catch early stage crap. It's not the best at it, but it can potentially help. And I think you would see if you ran a full rate of prodiamine in round 2 or round 3 versus a full rate of dimension round 2 or round 3, you would notice significantly better control of crabgrass with a single max rate of dimension rather than a single max rate of prodiamine. Okay. And again, I want to make this clear. If anybody is trying to sell you that it makes sense to go prodiamine followed by dimension, you do not have to do that. You would have to do that. Prodiamine plus quinclorac would be cheaper than a full rated dimension, though. I have no idea off the top of my head. At some point, I've done that math. I don't think it was. Um,
However, Matt,
and that's if you're
here's the thing.
you may be
Here's the thing
looking at
about
brand
doing.
name dimension.
But here's the thing about doing quinclorac plus a prodiamine app. I consider that app actually to be the more sure thing in cases where you know you're late on your pre, and just to make double damn sure, it would even be worth it for me to add mesotrione or tenacity to that app if I knew I was definitely late. However, going back to what Matt said, you can only count on dimension or ditherapy on crabgrass that is still at the 2 to 4 leaf stage. After that, you're kind of too late. So I guess the precaution is to be very careful about somebody trying to sell you dimension, because I agree, dimension does have its uses, but then I believe it has been vastly oversold.
Yeah, so this is
I
a relatively recent price list, and I'm seeing be just under $200 a gallon for dithiapir. What is the full rate? Do you know that off the top of your head? Is that 2
Quart,
pints an acre?
quart per acre
Yep.
of
So a quart per acre. So that would be let's see, 200 divided
$50,
by
fifty
4.
dollars,
Yeah,
yep,
$50 an
fifty
acre. So
dollars.
yeah, that's definitely cheaper than prodiamine plus quinclorac.
However, you know, dimension was never intended as a post-emergent herbicide. Never.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah, yeah,
then,
yeah, yeah.
in other words, if you start to see like crabgrass beyond the 4 leaf stage, I'd say, scrap the dimension idea and knock it out with quinclorac before it becomes a question. Just knock it out.
And
I wasn't
typically,
able to find that, Matt.
it's all right.
Mhm.
One of the things I was going to say, Evie, is that if I actually saw crabgrass, like, and I see it, right? If it's in the 2 tiller stage, I'm not going to be able to see that at all. Period. Zero. None. Not going to be able to see it. And so then that's why I'm applying dimension. If I see it and it's at the canopy, then yeah,
Mhm.
quinclorac is the only option there. But I'm going to make that very clear that if I see it in a yard, it's way, 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 way too late. What were we gonna say, Matt?
Mhm.
I was just gonna say, so the Stonewall predominant is
Yep.
what I go out and so I have the round one. is like in February or March, and I do go out with a little bit of Quinway or quinclorac. I will use, I think the Quinway is what I use most of the time. And so I'll spray those the first round, February or March, if there's a lot of weeds. And then um, I will come back out in May with the stone wall again. Um,
When do you start?
is what I February or March with the
Okay.
pre-emergence.
Okay. So then you're going out when? April, May on the next one?
Uh huh. Yep.
Okay.
And then my round three, I'll go ahead and give you these right here. Are you putting those in?
Yep, yep, I'm writing them
Um,
down.
okay. And then my round 3 would be June,
Okay.
round 4 would be July,
Okay.
5 is August,
Yep.
and then September to October, which I think I'm gonna start, in the first week of September doing my, seeding, aerating, and
Yep.
fertilizing. It
Yep.
you sometimes and I've heard, we'll get there, but I've heard mixed feelings about the fertilizer when seeding, but, and then waiting a couple weeks, but we'll get there if y'all want to. Um,
Yep.
but then I'll go out with the stone, and then I'll start with, celebrant. Um,
And when?
I usually go out in, May, the last week of May,
Okay.
and then I'll put another one out maybe in July is when it's now these are kinda rough depending on these are just, my go-bys, and then, I have about 6 yards that are ate up with nimble. And
Woo!
so I have been trying to implement, Pilex, if I'm correct, and
Uh-huh.
tenacity together, with the surfactant to help kill those, and I tell them that, sometimes it's, like, at least 2 rounds if needed, to help kill that nimble. But what happens is, when I tell them it's gonna be white and it's gonna be you may have some bare spots, if it kills it until September or whatever. And some people get a little bit discouraged when it comes to that, So what I've read is the hottest part of the summer is when, or the peak time of the nimble growing is the best time to kill it.
Yeah, all right. So we'll come back to the nimble. I wrote that down.
Okay.
So we've got Stonewall, a Celiprin, then what else?
Okay, and then, and all of this has fertilizer in it. I just don't have I can't
The
find,
analysis.
yeah, I can't find, for some reason, I thought I had them written down, I apologize about that.
That's no problem.
Um, and then I usually, the tenacity, if I go out by itself, will help clean up some of the broadleaves,
Mhm.
but I've been known to, with her surfactant and stuff, and in the middle of the summer, I really don't like spraying in the middle of the summer because it's either super hot and nobody likes water in their lawns and stuff like it because everything's dying. So I really don't like spraying for weeds in the middle of the summer. So hopefully I'll take care of those, and the pre-emergence and stuff will help take care of the ones that I've been taking care of, for more than a year. Hopefully we won't have a lot in the summer. I don't know if y'all agree with that, but maybe is there something that I can do in the winter or summer to spray? I
No.
know.
Okay, here's where I deal with weeds. I like to deal with my weeds in the bookends of the season, and that would mean spring, meaning one and round two, or my other preferred time is probably in that September to October time frame when you're out of summer, because when you're out of summer, that gives you the option of using stuff that actually works.
I'm a bit more aggressive than that, and we'll get into that. So in what do you do in August?
In August is I have a slow release. I don't have it on here, but I try to find a slow release
Uh
fertilizer,
huh.
pretty slow to put down in the summertime. And if
Okay.
they're watering the lawns, I tell them, I say, hey, if you're not going to water the lawns and we're really, been in kind of a drought, then there's no sense in me putting anything down. So I kind of ask them, are you going to water the lawns? Or are you going to wait for the rain to take care of the fertilizer? And so I just kind of base it off of that, whether I put something down or not.
Okay.
Okay.
And then September, October, you're seeding.
Yes.
Okay. And then your last one, what are you doing for your last step?
Like a 4600 is what I've been using for a
Uh-huh.
winterizer. Um, and I really don't know if you even need a winterizer. I just don't know if that's just a selling point for people
No.
or if it actually is
It's
beneficial.
not. Uh it is beneficial, especially in your area. But we'll be wary of the word winterizer, and we'll go over that as we get there.
Yeah,
All right.
we're gonna
So
get into that winter
yeah,
period.
we'll start with round one and round two here, right? Prodiamine, Quinway. I don't like Quinway either. If you where I would use something like Quinway, which by the way is going to be it's just quinclorac, right? That's a it's
Right.
a generic form of quinclorac. I use it as a tank mix companion, but as a standalone product, I don't like it a lot, except in very specific circumstances. And that would be like, for example, the heat of summer or the hotter part of early fall. Okay. Outside of that, not just a giant fan, except when it's tank mixed with other things. So, what I would be looking to do, and especially what I know in your area, there is a couple of things that you can consider, right? There are a lot of phenoxy herbicides that are out there. And when I say phenoxy herbicides, those are going to be things that work on hormonal pathways of broadleaf weeds, and it's what typically causes that curling and twisting. And normally it'll contain something that either has MCPA or mecaprop and dicamba, and maybe one of the followings: triclopyr, fluroxapyr, 2,4-D. So it's going to be a combination of one of those. Typically, it's traditionally called a three-way, right? And that your dollar for dollar type of approach there, especially early season coming out in February, March, makes way more sense using that than quinclorac. I wouldn't even consider quinclorac coming off the truck until April, May.
Okay.
No problem there. Um,
Or if not April, May, when Clorox goes in September, October, and the reason why is you do quinclorac so that you've hit things like clover and violet before winter. Okay, so that if you hit it in the fall winter,
mhm.
then you're going to have less of an issue with it next spring. And
Can I ask
the
y'all
other,
something?
yes,
I'm sorry, Ray. I didn't mean to cut you off. Um,
hmm
24D. I don't really like using 24D.
You don't have to.
okay,
Um,
you don't have to
is
because
it
what I'm going to tell you is normally, unless I have a reason to do it, my preferred broadleaf herbicide to be paired with your quinclorac application is actually triclopyr.
Okay.
and you can get Triclopyr 4E in 2.5 gallon jugs for relatively cheap nowadays. It's not that expensive because I know back 15, 20 years ago, Triclopyr was only sold as Turflon ester, and they wanted about $400 for the 2.5 gallon jug. But nowadays, you can get Triclopyr in a 2.5 gallon jug for half that. And your use rate on that Triclopyr is as low as 16 ounces per acre. And it
Oh
pairs
wow.
very nicely with, and it pairs very nicely with your quinclorac. It's a very nice combination. And that I've seen pick up the majority of your problem weeds. The weeds that cause your problems. Like what I've heard from people is that violet and clover and chickweed tends to thumb its nose at a regular three-way application. I mean, people tell me I've been using, three-way or Trimec, and the clover, the violet, and the chickweed is still here, and it's not phased by it, or it's like barely wilted by it. I said, okay, if that's the case, either you add 16 ounce per acre of triclopyr to your existing three-way, or you can get a little more aggressive with it and bump up your triclopyr to a full quart per acre, and then see what happens.
Yep. So
Can
there
you
are
remind me again what all is in the three-way real quick? I'm
there's
sorry if
there's
you
a
already
lot of
said
stuff.
that.
It can be
Okay.
mecaprop, dicamba, MCPA, triclopyr, fluroxapyr. It depends on the formulation you get. And that's about to share with you right here, and I'm going to send you a spreadsheet that has a lot of this stuff in it too. So don't
Hmm.
worry too
Okay.
much about it from the get go.
Yeah, Matt's got it all
But
written
Okay.
down.
New Farm is a manufacturer of products, and if you're getting from Advanced Turf or even Site One, they sell New Farm products. If you want to
Hmm.
talk to someone at New Farm, there's only one person that I would ever recommend. I love this guy, one of my all-time favorite people in the industry, and I'm going to put his Facebook on here because you can message him on Facebook. Brian,
Okay.
I would not put Tricopyr on St. Augustine,
Yeah,
but Rod
Brian, don't.
Marquardt, you can message Rod on. I call him Canada Rod. He's from Canada. He's in Florida now, and he is an account manager for New
New
Farm,
Farm.
and the guy is incredibly knowledgeable. The guy, literally, his whole career is dedicated to studying herbicides and helping lawn care guys find the appropriate product to solve problems. What I like about New Farm, when you go to their website, they list different things here, like Cool Power is going to be a 2,4-D formulation. I believe Escalade 2 is a 2,4-D formulation. I think it's also a low odor formulation.
Actually,
They have.
Cool Power is a little different in that Cool Power is a 2,4-D free three-way, Matt. And Matt,
Mhm.
I mean, if I believe Cool Power is MCPA, triclopyr, and dicamba, and that I've found to be an extremely active and effective 2,4-D free three-way. It has
Yes, it is.
all the power of 2,4-D without the 2,4-D, and the use rates on that Cool Power are very economical because you're talking about only what quart per acre on that stuff too. It's not a
Yep,
lot.
yep. Another one is Horsepower. Horsepower's a little bit hotter. It's MCPA, triclopyr, and dicamba. It has a little bit higher temperature restriction too, so you can apply it when it is a little bit warm outside. In fact, I think the temperature is up to 90 degrees on
Okay,
that one.
you
Or
know the
Oh
horsepower,
wow.
Matt.
uh-huh.
Horsepower
I have
is essentially the same formulation as Cool Power, except horsepower is a non-volatile amine formulation, and apparently you can do that in summer if you have to. You can do
Yep.
horsepower. I would save cool power though for spring and fall applications. I would definitely
Yep.
recommend cool power for spring and fall, but then horsepower, if you had to do a weed cleanup in the summer, horsepower would be a definite option. And it would work.
Yep.
And I don't think that
And
horsepower too is very expensive either, according to its use rate. It's rather economical. I mean,
oh yeah, yeah. No,
it's not
they're
it's not that
very
bad.
affordable.
It's not that bad, I don't think.
Another one is Change Up. Change Up is MCPA fluoroxypyrin dicamba.
Mhm.
Also has temperature restriction at 90 degrees Fahrenheit. It also has a label that allows it to be applied to St. Augustine as well too, but much lower temperature restriction there, but also 2,4-D free. So there's a lot of options. I'd say New Farm is probably the most advanced of manufacturers right now that are non 2,4-D formulations. Hogan's
Mhm.
Hideout is asking, why not 2,4-D? 2,4-D is without a doubt debatably linked to cancer in dogs. It is, as far as humans, that is not established. I have not seen any research that shows it is carcinogenity towards humans, but towards dogs specifically, there is
Mhm.
some data there. So I do not blame anyone for wanting to go 2,4-D at all. But New Farm is without a doubt the number one manufacturer, in
They're
my
a leader.
opinion. Yeah,
They're a leader
in
in,
2,4-D
alternative
formulations.
and
Can I throw
innovative,
a wrinkle in this?
Yep.
sure.
So, a lot in the summertime when nutsedge becomes an issue, and around here in
Mhm.
Madisonville, nutsedge, yellow and purple, and there's another one I'm thinking of off the top of my head. I can't think of it.
Uh,
Kalinga,
But
is
globe
it a Kalinga
salutes.
Kalinga,
species?
yes, Kalinga.
Yep.
Yeah.
People
Uh-huh.
around here
Mhm.
think Kalinga is like a grass.
Mhm. Yep.
It's grass grows like this, and then Kalinga grows like that, and they're like, look, it's so it's. I bought Solero to help mitigate these issues, but here's the problem I've been having with this. Um, it's not a very good product mixed in with everything else. So
No.
I'm having a hard time finding a way to use Solero in the yard and still not charging the customer an arm and a leg for 3 different products in the summertime when I'm still trying to stick with a 7-step program. Does that make sense? So
Yeah, all
what
right.
That
should
So,
I
all right,
you
hang on. Let me stop you right there. This is where it's gonna get extremely difficult, right? Because if you are dealing with a yard that has that much pressure that warrants a blanket application for nutsedge control products, especially ones that are going to require control of an even more difficult to control carrot species like Kalinga, that is where you're getting into higher dollar materials, right? Can you get away with sulfentrazone in that situation? Yeah, if it's not hot outside, or you get out there early, where it's not too dry, right? But if it is any of those things, especially when it gets dry, or you're in that cusp, right, where you've been getting a lot of rain, the grass is on point, and then you've got like 2 weeks ahead of you of no rain, and then you go make an application of sulfentrazone, and it tip burns the holy bejesus out of the entire yard, and then it gets no rain after that, and it takes
Mhm.
about a month for it to all grow back out and be cut off, and it makes you look really bad, right? So
Right,
the
mhm,
uh I like where you're thinking like, well, what can I do and still get Kalinga? Solero would actually probably be a great product there, right? Now, this is where you have to keep in mind, right? To keep from charging on that, I don't see how that's possible now until that comes off patent, right? When it comes off patent, and we are still probably 4 or 5 years away till that comes off patent,
mhm.
I don't think you're going to get away from it because at full rate, at 16 ounces an acre, I mean, you are spending a chunk of what is that, $200 an acre for the application, something like that?
200
It's a
plus, man.
lot, yeah.
200 plus. 200
Yeah.
plus, and this is
Like
where
you can't bake
you
that
can't
in to the
And
cost.
I'm gonna also tell you one more thing about doing nut sedge control and sedge control, because I know Matt even did a video on this, and he kind of took uh, from my philosophy on nut sedge control, in that when I have a lawn that has high nut sedge pressure, it is understood that I'm going to be doing something like the following: sulfentrazone in spring before it gets hot. That goes into round 1 and round 2 and round 3. Then, for the remaining sedge breakthrough, then I will look at targeted applications of Celero or Sedgehammer. But you have to, of course, know your lawns. And if you know they have a sedge issue, that's where I'm thinking this lawn gets broadcast sulfentrazone in the spring before it gets so hot that the sulfentrazone is going to fry the lawn.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
So
kind of a
you would spray it 3 different times before the summer,
Y-
serventrazone,
yes, and
yes,
so and it would go
and then
like
spot
this,
spray with
Matt.
Solero?
No,
yes.
you
I would.
well, you probably won't
No.
have to spot spray with Solero. Is kind of the nice thing about it, right?
What
Yeah,
is the
because you
usage
probably
And
rate
won't have to.
on serventrazone?
Yeah,
so
Like,
because
what
how
you
you
many
would
use right
times
do
a
can
on
you
cool
use it?
season would be
4
4
ounces,
ounces an acre. Okay,
4 ounces an
and
acre,
so
3
it
times.
would be it would be like this, like on your first prodiamine application of the year. So while you're out there in February and March, you're spraying it
Mhm.
with sulfentrazone 4 ounces an acre. You would also be applying your 2,4-D formulation of new farm products to catch your broadleaf weeds. You would also be applying prodiamine, right? And
All at
if
the
you do
same
that
time.
correctly, all at the same time, right? That your
Yes, yes, you
cost per
can.
thousand square foot on that should probably be somewhere around like $1.50 a thousand square feet, right?
Hmm.
Um, on your second application, you'd be doing the same thing. Prodiamine plus a three-way plus another 4 ounces per acre of sulfentrazone. And then your
Hmm.
third round, right? You're in so then your third round, you might be doing just sulfentrazone. I know there you like to do a celiprin on a fertilizer, and
Mhm.
I'm gonna push back on that, but it would be your round 3, right? Sorry, I knocked my mic cable out, but it would be 3 sequential rounds that you would do that at 4 ounces per acre each round. So 3 applications at 4 ounces per acre gives you a total of 12 ounces per acre. That is going to
And
be
that's
some of
max
the more
total? Or is
that's max total. And what that
okay.
also does is that is primarily going to give you season long control in almost like a pre-emergent like capacity of your carrot species. So your yellow nutsedge, your purple nutsedge, your kalingas.
Hmm.
It's in effect a pre-emergent of
It's,
sorts against those
it's
species,
like
and
a
by applying
pre-emergent.
it at 4 ounces per acre in each application, you're going to avoid a lot of the damage that you do to the grass by trying to come in there and spot spray or run 6 ounces an acre at one time and then tip burn the crap out of the grass.
And the other benefit of doing that much sulfentrazone is that that much sulfentrazone also has a very positive effect on broadleaf weeds and grassy weed species too, because sulfentrazone is actually used as a broad spectrum pre-emergent herbicide in agriculture. So
Hmm.
basically, it is
Okay.
adding another hard-hitting mode of action to your prodiamine, so you're getting like high-level weed control in a turf area that gets both sulfentrazone and prodiamine. And here's the thing: some people may have talked about this FMC combination product called Echelon. I hate that
Hmm.
product.
Yeah,
And the reason
garbage.
why I hate that product is because it does not allow me to tailor the amount of prodiamine I'm applying. And it also, if I'm not mistaken, applies an excessively hot rate of sulfentrazone when you're applying it at its label rate. I mean, that's my only bash on FMC is that their sulfentrazone combination products are kind of brutal because their sulfentrazone rate is way higher than what I like to see it at. Because for me, when I apply sulfentrazone, I'm keeping that at 4 ounces per acre. I'm not tempted to go to 5 ounces or 6 ounces because that is just, it's not worth the damage that it leaves behind. When I can get the same results from doing 4 ounces and then coming back a month later and applying the next four.
Mm.
What?
You know,
All right. Let me ask you this: why are you doing 2 rounds of a Celebrin?
No particular reason, but um, my whole thought process was I just split the full rate up and do it like I would Stonewall, and you get that same effect. Is that not the case?
What are you trying to prevent?
Mm,
Grubs and the grub control mainly because we have had a lot of issues with grubs around here this year.
Uh, Ray, if you're applying in June, a
mhm.
Celebrin, what is the rate on that? 3 ounces?
More. You're
Nah,
you're
is
doing
that
like
part of
no, you're
granular?
doing like the you're doing the equivalent of, I believe, 8 ounces. And if you can get down the equivalent of 8 ounces of the aciloprin liquid, that's essentially year long, if not 2 year long, insect control. But the key is that the lowest rate of aciloprin is only intended as a curative app on surface feeding caterpillars. It is not recommended for grub prevention. So my preference would actually be to, how's this? Find a way to get the full rate of aciloprin down in your May or June app. And by full rate, I'm thinking the equivalent of the 8 ounce per acre of the liquid. However, that
Yeah.
So
translates in your
here's the
granular product.
problem. On a granular, that is 300 pounds per acre. Okay.
hmm
And and so I'm assuming, I'd say probably the most common one that is out there is going to be a 2205 Grow Star from TCS. Not a lot of companies have the ability to carry the Celebrin label, and that's just due to uh, labeling laws, right? So, Turf Care Supply is a big enough company that they can support the EPA registration number, right? And
Mhm.
here's the thing: 300 pounds per acre of a 2205. Okay, uh, that is so much nitrogen. 43.5.
yeah,
So that's a pound and a half of N in a single app. You're not gonna turn out well doing that June on Tall Fescue in Kentucky.
that's going to be terrible. And
I think
I'm
that's
going
the
to ask,
reason why I split it up. I think that's the reason why I split it up when I first started talking about doing that because there was so much nitrogen from the beginning doing a full rate. And so splitting that up, it kind of
okay,
helped with so much nitrogen going into the summer.
I'm going to also ask, is there a particular reason why a lot of these key applications that you do are tied to fertilizer? Because
Yeah,
I'm
how do you
seeing,
apply material?
So the reason why I have fertilizer in with the cell print and Stonewall is to essentially not have to do them separate. So
Mm.
it's
Mhm.
I'm because I run a permagreen, and so I haven't got skilled at doing spraying and fertilizer at the same time. So I try to knock them out, the fertilizer along with the pre-emergent, and then I come back and spray, or, or something like that. So it's more of a I'm not as skilled, or it's less time consuming to do it that way. It's not a
You
particular
man,
reason other than
you
that.
got to learn how to spray and spread at the same time. And if that's one thing you do this year, you gotta do it. It is gonna open you up so much more. Number 1, your prodiamine applications, your first 2 applications of the year, you're gonna save a ton of money. Number 2, the results you're gonna get out of spraying prodiamine and blanket spraying your weed control in those first 2 apps is gonna be monumentally different than what you've experienced today. So you're gonna save money and you're gonna have better results. Uh,
So you would recommend
the
a liquid prodiamine
Yeah.
versus a granular?
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. I mean,
I I
for
have
me,
spread, I don't know, probably 3,000 pallets of granular prodiamine over the year, and I've probably sprayed 3,000 gallons of liquid prodiamine, and if I had to choose, I would never spread a bag of granular prodiamine again because the results of comparing the 2 are not even effing close to 1 to 1. Not even close.
okay, I'm
Mm,
gonna tell
okay.
you that as far as these, herbicide and insecticide type applications, I have never ever looked for granules or fertilizer with pre-emergent, for example. I've always just sprayed it. I've always just sprayed it because by spraying it, that puts control of the rate that I'm applying firmly in my hands. Okay. I have control because then I'm not tied to, okay, how much fertilizer do I have to spread in order to get an even app out? Oh, that's not an issue because you just broadcast spray it at the rate that it needs to be applied at, and you're not worried about granules anymore. You're not. I mean, it's just not a concern. Whereas with the granules, it turns into an issue of because these granules are of a certain size and the granules land so far apart. What does that do to my weed control efficacy, for example? So, hands down, if you can, or in others, my statement would be is if you can find a formulation that can be mixed into a tank with water and sprayed out, that's the formulation that you use.
Yeah.
Okay, that's the
So
formulation used first choice.
this is one thing. Okay, and seriously, Matt, I use a permagreen for I can't tell you, 8 years of my career. I did every property, every round with every product, basically that is on the market today with my permagreen. I have sprayed more random shit out of my permagreen that would make Ray want to jump in front of traffic. I've sprayed carbaryl, I've sprayed mancozeb, I've sprayed daconil, you name it. I have put it through a permagreen, and people are going to breathe down your neck and laugh at you for doing it at a quart per thousand. But I promise you, in a lawn care capacity, if you're trying to maintain, a thousandth of an inch bent grass, don't do it. If you're trying to maintain a thousandth of an inch Bermuda greens, don't do it. In 4-inch fescue, you're going to get away with it just fine. Somebody mentioned spraying water. What I like to do to practice spraying with it is when I would train people is I'd put blue dye in it, a real low rate of blue dye, and I would just spray over and over, over and over, so that way I could see where I was going. Right. And what I normally did was I would paint the inside and then do a trim pass. I've got a video on YouTube where I'm modifying my trim nozzle just to make it easier. I put it over my right tire, so that way I could see where my trim nozzle was spraying, and I would do my trim passes with that. Okay, and it is going to be a total life changer for you because you can do two things at one time all year long.
The hardest thing with the permagreen, and I don't want to get too far off subject, but I love talking about the permagreen because it makes Ray cringe every time you mention the word.
It'll be all right.
um, but it's the hardest part about the permagreen is getting close to the edges of like the landscaping without burning the bushes, the flowers or whatnot
So
that's in there,
you know there's a
and
trim
even the
nozzle
trim
there,
pass.
right?
Well,
Hmm.
even the trim passes sometimes don't even go as wide as the tires, right?
Yeah, because you got to tilt your nozzle more forward if it's not going as wide as the wheels. You have to lift it to make it point more forward. So you'll see in
Okay.
that video, I literally plumbed it to stick over my right tire and outward, so that way I can watch the 80-degree pattern coming off of it and see
Hmm.
exactly where I'm hitting on that right edge. And so that way, if I want to get within 6 millimeters of a line of forsythia bushes, I can do it no problem. Because I
Okay.
know I am watching exactly where it's spraying right over my right tire. It's not underneath the machine; it is right in front of the right tire,
Yeah,
and
that's
that
just
is
always been my biggest fear with that, around the landscaping. I don't want a customer calling me and, uh, hey, you burn all my bushes and stuff last time you was
Y
here.
yeah, you
So
definitely
I
don't wanna
try
do that.
to, yeah, so I really try to be careful when it comes to that. And so, um, to talk to say what you were saying, to see it, I will, most of the time, I will try to idle it so I can see where it's going. So I won't full trigger it. I will see where
Uh-huh,
it's going. That's the only way that I can see it is,
uh-huh.
doing a half throttle on it with it, with the Y pattern. So I kind of narrow it down as I'm going with my hand because I kind of control it that way instead of using the trim pass. But if I can use the pass, I would rather do that. That way I can
Yes.
see it, so I'll have to watch that video that you're talking about.
Yep, and look, the only way you should run a permagreen because it's the way the pump is calibrated is full throttle, right? So if you're having to half
Hmm.
throttle it, you're going to get a wild variation on your spray pattern altogether. That yeah, it
Right.
may be shrinking, but then even your droplets within the area that you're hitting are not going to be sufficient, and so it's going to create a lot of problems for you. So definitely don't do it that way because that it's going to be inconsistent rate of material that you're even getting across the weeds that you're spraying there because you're not getting enough pressure to direct the spray at the appropriate amount. So your nozzle's got to be is it's not your nozzle is not fit for that low of pressure that you're using. So you're not going to get correct
Okay.
output. Um, so what that would allow you to do is that number one is on the prodiamine, it's going to give you so much more flexibility on your rates, right? Like where you are in Madisonville, a pound and a quarter of a pound of AI of prodiamine, right? So say you're when you get it as a liquid, you're probably going to get it as a water soluble powder or water dispersible powder, and it is in 1 pound of it. It has point 0.6. It's 65% active ingredient, so 0.65, right? So if you
Mhm.
ran, three quarters of a pound of actual material followed by three quarters of a pound of actual material, that's going to be a pound and a half total times 0.65. So that's roughly 1 pound of AI that's going to be going down in your area, that's gonna be sufficient, right?
And that's gonna
That
actually
way
be
you're not
solid weed control.
tied
Yeah.
you're not gonna be tied to your rate of granular, and where that can be a problem is that, it may say, "Hey, for 4-month control, apply, 200 pounds an acre," or whatever. It's like,
Mhm.
"Okay, but what rate is 4 months?"
Right.
It's not gonna say. It's just gonna give you a time
Yeah.
there, right? Or and that's all going to vary based on what it is. Maybe you need only a half pound of nitrogen to go down then, but you're locked
Mhm.
in at applying a pound and a quarter like you would be with your Celiprin. And now you're like, oh man, I'm having to dump a lot of nitrogen right here in April and May. And I know I got brown patch season coming up in middle of May. Do I want to do that
And
there?
the biggest
Well,
factor
so
too
what
is
would you do with the fertilizer? Like instead, like now that you're getting rid of that variable, and we're just strictly
Hmm.
what you're
going
getting.
with liquid, what
We'll get
what I go ahead?
get
I'm
So
sorry.
like,
EMS, get EMS,
yeah,
or get straight 4600. You see, when
Liquid?
you not
nope.
you don't have to be liquid on that. You can be granule. You can be granular AMS. And here's the thing: by doing that, you can then tailor your rates and tailor your timing so that you're applying your fertilizer when it would actually be most beneficial, and cutting off your fertilizer when it would start to become harmful. Because I was not necessarily cringing about the permagreen thing. I was cringing more about putting down that much nitrogen in June. I was cringing about that more. Okay, I was cringe that was giving me more of a squeamish moment, because I would be rather reluctant to be throwing down a lot of slow release nitrogen right before brown patch season in the transition zone. I'd be really reluctant. And by separating my fertilizer from my control products, I can then taper off my nitrogen by April, and have that tailing off and ending, so that the turf grass is not over fertilized in June and July.
Yeah. So of the soil tests I've seen in your
Mhm.
area, typically you're going to be pH is going to be somewhere like 6.8 and up, right? So really you can
Yeah,
run
I actually
ammonium
had
sulfate.
um the lowest the I had a bunch that I was gonna send JP, but I just didn't want to bore you because everything is almost the same. There was one that the potassium level was pretty low, and the magnesium was super high, but that was just 1 yard. But the lowest pH that I've got was out of the sandy area, like a sandstone yard. The pH was around 5.4, and but everything, all my other yards are around 6 to 7, and that was the only one. I've only had one that was around 5.4
Yeah.
pH level.
Yeah, so you can get away with ammonium sulfate and or you can find out what they've got on their cheap blends. Typically, like someone like ATS is going to have a fairly cheap floor stock of like a 1705 or a 2005. And that way you can apply it at 3 pounds per thousand, right? And you're only delivering zero point
Hmm.
0.6 pounds of in April, May. And because you've got your Aceleprint application coming up, maybe you want to run a 12012 or a 1200 or whatever else they've got cheap on the floor,
Hmm.
because you've got an extremely expensive application of a Aceleprint coming down, and you don't want to blow all your budget for the year on a single application, right? So
Right.
you can pick one, it's going to be cheaper to spray Celeprint too than spread it. And then also you can use a cheap fertilizer because you don't need to get a ton of N down, right? A third of a pound, half of a pound in, and you're going to be okay, right? And because it's warm, you're not getting a ton of irrigation as it is. You're still getting rain then for sure where you are. You're going to be getting plenty
Hmm.
of rain.
Right.
So I mean, look for what they got. What low analysis do you have that's cheap, right? And chances are they're going to have something that's like $10 a bag, ready to go for you. Maybe $12 a bag. Like great. And at 3 pounds per thousand, I mean, you're spending a really, really low amount of money on your fertilizer, and that's going to soften that blow of your Celiprin granular that's costing you 50, $60 a bag, right? So
Hmm.
anyway, that would be the way I would go for sure. Um, is just you're gonna have to spray it. Um, I'm gonna make that note real quick, and then all right. that way too, you don't have to mix it up. Now you got to find something to do in July, right? And
Mhm.
there's a ton of things that you can do, right? If you threw out the Acelepryn and now you want to make your tenacity application, you just opened up a ton of your budget. I probably wouldn't even apply fertilizer in July. Just make an application of tenacity. Yes,
Just
it's
Yeah,
the hottest part of the year,
for
for the
but
nimble wool.
yeah, but
for the
that's
nimble.
also
Okay.
that's when your warm season grass, nimblewill's warm season grass, is going to be growing its most viciously. That would be a more opportune time to apply it anyway. You what,
And
are
am I
I don't
still
believe
putting the Pilex with it?
you could
You
put
don't
Pilex with it all day long,
hang
but I
on,
would I
hang
would
on.
pick Pilex over tenacity for nimblewill. Or am I saying that backwards, Ray? I can't remember.
Okay, it's actually the other way around because the
Tenacity over
difference
Pilex for
between
nimblewill.
yeah, because the difference between Pilex and tenacity is that tenacity has a significant soil active component,
Mhm.
whereas with Pilex, from the work that I've seen done with Pilex, Pilex hits a weed very fast and then it's gone, at least at the rates that are labeled for turfgrass use, whereas tenacity lingers, tenacity accumulates. So, in other words, if you were doing nimble eradication in a fescue lawn, that can even look like multiple 4 ounce per acre applications of tenacity in the summer. Multiple.
Was it
It's not
3
one and
rounds
done.
max, right? 3
Three
rounds
rounds of
max with
4 ounce,
tenacity.
3 rounds at 4 ounces per acre. And
Now,
tenacity,
the
tenacity.
hardest another thing with the tenacity
Mm,
is we're only 2 months away from September, and I
that's
think
okay.
they say within 2 or 1 week's intervals of each other with the tenacity.
Mhm,
Is that gonna affect
mhm.
September?
No,
Nope. And in fact,
it's seed safe.
the thing about tenacity that's beautiful is that tenacity does not detrimentally affect a fescue or Kentucky bluegrass seeding. It is not
At time of
harmful.
seeding
So,
though, right?
no, even before,
Even
even if
before.
you're using it as a
Oh, okay.
grassy weed eradication program prior to seeding, that tenacity is not going to carry over and negatively affect your seeding job. It's very seed compatible. So you can use that to as an opportunity to, for example, eradicate or substantially reduce your nimble and other grassy weeds, and then go ahead and seed in September and October. And the tenacity is
And
not
and
going
that
to be harmful. It's not going to hurt.
that's without Pilex, right? So we're not gonna worry about putting Pilex with that,
don't
Nope.
don't
right?
bother.
Leave the Pilex
Don't
out.
bother.
No.
Okay,
Don't bother because I'm going to tell
okay.
you what Pilex
Yeah, I definitely
is
wouldn't
actually.
combine those. They're also the same mode of action too, so
There's the same. They're in the same mode of action, but what I would
you're
actually
sni
combine, what I
someone
would
told me one
actually
time, "You're
use,
sniffing the same fart."
yeah, because what you use Pilex for, there's two special use cases for Pilex. One is goosegrass.
Goosegrass,
The
yeah.
other the other special use case for Pilex is if you need to attempt to control Dallas grass selectively. Those are the only two times
I
that I
used
would
it for that last year. For Dallas
no.
grass was really bad around here last year in some of the
Mm-hmm.
yards.
Mm-hmm.
For some
But
reason,
then,
I don't know why, it was super bad. Well,
that
I
would be
tell you
the
this, I tell you this, it was a yard that I took over,
mm-hmm.
and she kept telling me that it was crabgrass. She said, "My previous lawn person said this is crabgrass."
Oh
And I was like,
boy.
"Well, let's go look at it." And so we went over and looked at it, and I was like, "This is not crabgrass." And
Oh, it had
and,
it
it
had
was Dallas
the
grass.
it had the big Y-shaped seed head, didn't it? The big Y-shaped seed head with the
Yes.
big seeds on it. Oh boy, that is Dallas grass because the crabgrass has a finer, like, finger, seed head that's in a clawed hand type of a configuration, and the seeds are a lot finer. I mean, a lot of lawn people tend to call any broadleaf grassy weed, wide leaf grassy weed, they call it crabgrass. Okay, if it's
It's
crabgrass,
so common around here.
how come
Yep.
if it's crabgrass, it's a perennial weed that is the last thing to go dormant in the fall, but then it comes up again in the same place in the spring because I'm familiar with how Dallas grass can be perennial. Be careful about that.
Oh yeah,
Be
Dallas
very
grass
careful.
is definitely perennial in our area.
Oh,
It
oh
is
yeah.
it is terrible, and especially where we are in what I would call like the well, I say the mid South. I mean, really anywhere southern Indiana and further south is and that's probably going to go over to like East Texas or
Mhm.
Central Texas. If you're anywhere in that realm, you are going to have literally entire lawns that are Dallas grass. I challenge anyone in the north or west that wants to see Dallas grass, come live where Matt and I live, and you will see more Dallas grass in those days than you will probably in the rest of your life. It is hilarious how much Dallas grass is everywhere. It's comical even, and a lot of times is that it's actually it's part of like right away mixtures and stuff, and so that's how that ends up happening and
Mm.
showing up everywhere. But it is without a doubt just absolutely everywhere. So Pilex in that example is going to be your friend, especially in cool season grass, right? Um,
Yeah, needless to say, they was pretty happy after I did my second application of Pilex on
I
that.
bet.
Nice.
I
Nice.
bet.
Nice.
Um, so your next application here, where you have a slow release fertilizer in August, I'll tell you right now, I love this. I think you nailed it here. Now here's the thing: is that when you're looking for a slow release, this is where you got to be careful. Okay, I can, I like what? All right, when you look on a label, let me find a label to send to J Pink, and we'll throw it on the screen, and I'll help you understand this label. Here, we'll do this. What is Ron Henry's website? Lawn Care Academy,
Golf
something like
course
that.
lawn academy. Golf course lawn
Oh,
academy.
oh yeah, Golf Course Lawn Academy. I don't even know what it is.
Yeah, that.
It is not Lawn Care Academy. I learned that. I was like, dude, what? Okay, let me find a shop. I'm gonna go to all right, just go look. J Pink beat me to it. J Pink, let's go to the Humic Max 1608. Okay. And we are going to look at this label of are they going to have a detailed yes, they do. Okay. All right. Let me go back to this window. All right, he's got that's all the horsepower and stuff. I'm gonna put this on this screen. Uh J Pink, do you want me to send you a link to the one I'm talking about?
Is it under fertilizer? Where's he putting this
Yeah,
stuff?
here, I got you. I gotcha. And it will be go to the second image, and then if you just hold the mouse over it, it'll zoom in on the label there.
Why is it not?
Has it been drinking again? Do you want to try an image and see if that works?
No, hold on. For some reason that input is frozen.
Oh Lord, have mercy. Watch,
It
he's
was
going to
working
work on that.
earlier.
So there is when you look at a label and it says guaranteed analysis, it's going to have total nitrogen, and then underneath it, it is going to have the nitrogen derivatives. Here we go. J Pink's a wizard. Uh, And so, for example, we see here total nitrogen is 16%. 1.1% of it is ammoniacal nitrogen. 1.4% is water insoluble nitrogen. And you see it has an asterisk next to it. Remember that,
Mm-hmm.
and we'll come back to it. Okay. 11% is urea nitrogen. And then 2.5% is other water soluble nitrogen, also with an asterisk after it. Okay. All right. So, what is the asterisk? We go down and it says 3.9% slowly available nitrogen. Okay. In this particular instance, this is from methylene ureas, but it might say polymer coated ureas. It may have all kinds of different things in there. But notice it says 3.9%. Okay. We know it in total, it has 16%, right? So we say 3.9, okay, divided by 16 is roughly 24.37% of this fertilizer is slow release. I would say if you're in August, you're probably going to want to be at minimum 50% slow release or greater. So in a 1608, that would mean you would want at least 8% to be slowly available. If it's a 2005 and it says 15% is slowly available, that would be 15 divided by 20. Whoops. That would be 75% slow. I like that, right? So 50%, 60%, 70, 75%. All of that is great. A minimum of 50%. And the reason why is that you may still be fertilizing dormant grass in August, and you may feel like an absolute moron doing that, right? But here's the thing is that we know in August it is not going to be dormant much longer because that is when the weather shifts. Okay. So the highest percentage of slow release that you can get down right there, the better it is going to be. Um, and I would say that only choose 50% if it's irrigated, for example, right? Then you've got 50% of it that's quick, 50% that's slow. That means that 50% quick is going to give you a fast woof. If you have to let it
There's
sit
not
there and
one
wait for
lawn
the
I do
rain,
that's air traded.
then perfect. So there are other products out there that are going to be 100% slow, right? And it may be made of XCU, it might be duration. Is that Demay in here? Fucking Demay's in here. He's out there. By the way, Demay won an award tonight for being one of the most badass fucking professionals in sports turf, by the way. And just real quick, I wanna make that known that Demay, who we have on this show, who's out of town right now because he just collected an award for being a top-notch, top dog, baddest dude on the effing planet. And boy,
And Matt,
you don't
Our
get
our
that
boys growing
unless
up on us.
it is
and you know what? And Matt,
unreal, and you love to see it.
and
You
that is
love to
why
Awesome.
see it.
right now I am LARPing to me. All right, I'm LARPing RD right here.
Congratulations, Demay and Field
Congratulations.
Source. It is an absolute honor to
Field,
have you on here while you're out there doing the big boy things out in the real world. And for anybody that wants to comment on us and say you should stop being mean or whatever, guess what? Demay absolutely 100% earned his chops to say whatever he wants to say.
Get
That's it.
fucked.
Yes, there it is. Thank you, J Paint. You nailed it. So, anyway, you want a minimum of 50%. And just like you told me, I would say realistically, probably looking at a 75% slow release, right? And so that is the way how to make the calculation on your own. So that way you can fact check whatever anyone tells you. Because they may tell
and
you, yeah, it's a slow release fertilizer, and then you do the math on it, and you're like, this is 25% slow.
and here's the other indicator that you're dealing with a product that is mostly fast release. When I look at the price per pound or the price per thousand square foot, that's when I kind of have a clue because the products that are consisting of more delayed release nitrogen, those products tend to be more than, say, a immediate release or a product that is only 25% slow release, because it costs money to have fertilizer either polymerized or coated versus
Mm-hmm.
an uncoated product. Whereas, I got asked earlier in the chat, how about urea for the rounds where you're needing fast release? And I say, oh, sure. If you can get a hold of spreadable urea, by all means, go for it. I mean, that's economical, or can be economical. But then I'm guessing that if you're talking about dropping an application right in that transition point between summer and fall, I think
Mhm.
50 to 60%, all the way up to 75% slow release may be a good idea, especially if your lawns are not irrigated,
Mm-hmm.
Perfect.
right? Especially if not.
Yeah. So anyway, I hope that makes sense, right? That especially how to calculate that. And please, God Almighty, fact check everything anyone tries to sell you. Sometimes it may just be a mistake
Yeah.
they made. Sometimes they just don't know. And a lot of that is out there, especially on the sales side as well too, that they have been told that it is a complete and total slow release, and then they sell it to you, and then you look at the label and you're like, well, I don't know what's slow release in here at all, as a matter of fact. So anyway, fact check everything. Then you have seeding. Okay, I am with you on this. Whether you choose to put down fertilizer with your seed or not is totally up to you, especially if you use a quality slow release in round 5 in August, and then you're seeding in September and October. Maybe as I'm rolling in October, yeah. The ones I'm doing in September, probably not. And the reason why is this: finding a low salt index fertilizer that is not going to have some sort of impact on your germination rates is going to be really hard to do and really expensive. And so if you're going out with a good product on round 5, skipping fertilizer with your seed, you're probably not going to tell a
No big
difference.
deal.
Don't
No
tell
big deal.
anybody, but they'll never know. They'll never know. And you're going to be perfectly okay. Now, what is important is that, especially if you skip fertilizer on seeding, hurry up and get out there on round 7 and get your quote unquote winterizer down. When you're looking for a winterizer, this is what you're looking for: either urea or ammonium sulfate.
Okay.
Traditional
Right.
winterizers are going to have a boatload of potassium in them. Steer away from them. If anyone tries to sell you anything that contains anything other than just nitrogen, tell them to pound sand. That's not what I want. I said I want either spreadable urea or spreadable ammonium sulfate. And that's it. There's no debate about it. I'm not looking for anything else. I want one of those two things. Thanks. Um, and that's it. That's all you got to do, and that's your best way around the year. Now, we're running out of time. That's why I'm trying to hurry up here. Uh, for your Bermuda, for your Bermuda, right? If you notice, your fertilizer rounds on your program here, right, are going to be spring and fall, right? And we're doing just some real baby pussyfooting stuff as it's getting warm outside, just to keep it going, because I know you get a ton of rain up there. When you do get rain, you are getting monumental amounts of rain. I've
Mhm.
seen the Ohio River flood. I've seen McLean County underwater. I've seen all of it. It is you get a ton of rain up there, right? So
Mhm.
when you don't get rain, you get none. So anyway,
We
point
don't get
being
any.
is that in your spring and fall, that's really when we're fertilizing cool season grass. You're thinking about it backwards with Bermuda grass. When it's cool outside, you're spraying your prodiamine and your weed control, and you're not fertilizing. Nothing. You're not putting down nitrogen. You're not putting down potassium. You're not doing anything. Probably till about May. Until May, you're just doing prodiamine and a weed control. May hits, now you're starting a fertilizer. And what's funny is that with Bermuda, the hotter it is, the more the Bermuda wants the fertilizer. And you're going to think, man, it is 109 degrees outside with 118-degree heat index. And you pull up on the Bermuda lawn, and you're like, no way I can fertilize this right now.
You want to
Yes.
bet? You
Yes, you
want to
can.
bet? I mean,
And it's going to feel
because
weird,
Mhm.
but yeah, it wants
Well,
it.
I'm thinking
It's begging you.
last year I did every 3 weeks I went out with a 4600, I think it's what it was, of nitrogen.
nitrogen,
It may not have been that, but every 3 weeks I went out that he wanted me to hit it, and that was towards almost the end of summer where he was like, "Hey, I didn't realize he wanted to keep spending the money," and I was just like, I was kind of reluctant, but then we went because I just got 1 yard Bermuda, and let me tell you, it is all Bermuda. It's a
Mhm.
Awesome.
beautiful ground. It's a beautiful yard. I love it. And I know we're running out of time, but so I this year I want to go the start of into May every 3 weeks nitrogen. Every 3 weeks he wants
Nitrogen.
me to hit it with
Nitrogen,
nitrogen.
nitrogen. And you know what? You can keep on going with the nitrogen right up until, I want to say, August. August, because when does your Bermuda go dormant in your area?
Well,
When does it typically shut down
probably
for the year?
Halloween.
yeah, I was going to say the beginning of October, the end of October is
Okay,
when it's.
because you start to consider backing off of your nitrogen in by September. You know, your last feedings should be done in September, because by October and November, that's when you allow the Bermuda to go dormant for the winter. And conversely, uh, as it's going dormant for the winter is exactly when you should be applying its winter pre-emergence. You know, that's when you do a real solid one and make sure that that lawn is the lawn that does not have green polka dots of POA all over it in the winter.
It's really thick. Um, and the only issues I've had with the weeds is hairy bittercress and
Mhm.
onions and garlic, um,
Mhm.
and a little bit of thistle. We fought a lot of thistle. His Bermuda got some kind of damage in the wintertime last year, and so it almost killed off his whole side yard. But then,
Mhm.
like a lot of thistle, hairy bittercress, and was all coming up over there on that side. So, and then it was a whole thing, but we got that taken care of, and the Bermuda started coming in a little bit towards the end of the season. It started covering, recovering a little bit. Um, but his biggest thing is he mows it. You're gonna love this with a John Deere tractor at
Mhm.
like almost 2 inches, 2 and 3/4, I think is what he does, and it scalps so bad because he's
Mhm.
got a bumpy lawn. So he's
Mhm.
wanting me to see about what I can do about sand capping it. And
Oh
the
boy.
problem I have is I can't really do it in the summertime because I'm
Wait,
so
is he doing a
busy.
3-point hitch finish cut on his tractor? No, man,
On it,
that's
well,
Ooh.
not
it's
that's not
it,
gonna
no,
work.
no, no, no. It's not like it's a riding John Deere mower with a deck.
Oh.
You can change the deck
Oh,
out.
like,
It's not a big John Deere
Okay,
tractor,
okay.
but
oh, it's
Okay.
like a
it's a riding.
it's a garden tractor. It's like a garden tractor,
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
yeah, 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 yeah. Correct. Uh-huh. And
Yeah,
and
and
you're
so
not
the
gonna
he's
get it
wanting
level
me to.
enough sand capping it for that.
Uh,
yeah, yeah. Because
If you
here's
did
the
it once a year for 5 years,
maybe,
you're probably starting to make good progress.
can
because
you do it other than summertime?
no,
You know,
not
on Bermuda?
recommended.
No.
No, you see,
Okay.
Here's the thing about sand capping Bermuda. You can sand cap Bermuda like several inches deep, even in the summer. Sand cap it deep, throw down your urea application, let it grow through the sand. However, when I'm thinking about large areas of Bermuda, I start to think about toe behind reel mowers. If somebody's got more than a half an acre of Bermuda and they're not at golf green height, I'm thinking of a toe behind reel mower. And the reason why toe
He
behind reel,
has a little less than an acre with 2 yards together, um,
that's
and they're
still
all Bermuda.
that's still toe behind reel mower type of a
Okay.
situation,
Dude,
because
he would it would literally be cheaper for him to do that, and he would get better
into
results than you would be sand capping it.
yeah, yeah, he would do better to get an appropriate mower rather than try to sand this, because the deal with trying to use a rotary mower like that on Bermuda and do it at a low height is your turf area then has to be like countertop flat. It has to be like laser straight. Anything else, and that rotary mower deck is going to scalp.
And
Okay.
obviously, there are friends of sand capping in this chat right now. Connor Ward is definitely cheering on. Kelly
Hey,
Coleman
Connor.
probably has done the most insane sand cap I've ever seen in my life. It is. I will say, for experience, you should do it once, especially if this guy's
I
open
don't
to
have
it.
the machines to
Just
do that, and I don't none of our rental
no,
companies have anything to, and I'm not shoveling it, and I'm not throwing it out.
no, 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 no,
So,
no, 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 no.
I'm trying to figure out a way that if a rental company
Sub
has
it,
one that I can get
subcontract
one.
it. I guarantee you, if you go to the super of one of the golf courses within a 30-mile area, supers there are going to make would love to do that as a weekend job for you. And so sub it
Mm,
out, and even if you really like this customer and you just want to see it done, maybe just put like 10% on it or something, sub it out to this guy, and
Get it done.
let him get the job done. I will say, will the guy be happy with it? Yeah, for sure. Is it going to be laser level after one sand cap? No. I mean, it's going to take years to get it laser level. I mean, Connor Ward has a damn near laser level lawn, and how many times has he sand capped his lawn? I mean, it's
every
lots,
month.
right? Not that aggressive, but he's done it many times, right? And it takes a lot to do that. And so anyway, when you have solid state decks like that, they're not going to be very forgiving of any kind of undulation, and so you do need really. Here's the other thing: the way those things turn, they don't turn great, and so all that sand capping you do, and he gets out there and he starts running his mower on it. Yeah, every time he turns, he's going to
Hmm.
start cutting wheel marks into it. So it's
Hmm.
not the best. I would invest in a mower first, and then sand cap it second, and especially like Ray said, even if it's a toe behind, it would be a big game
A
changer
toe, yeah,
right from the get go.
a toe behind reel mower of some type, because this company no longer is in operation. But I remember telling a person, for their half acre Bermuda turf, go get yourself a 3 gang toe behind reel mower. And what these people did was they hooked it up to their utility vehicle and they just pulled it across the lawn. And Matt, how's this for nutty? They were mowing that Bermuda at like 5/8 of an inch.
That's crazy.
Common Bermuda. Of course, I had the fertilizer and weed control program on that turf area, but they were mowing it anywhere from 1 to 2 times per week with a toe behind three gang reel, and that lawn looked almost like fairway. So the customer was happy. All right. So, and here's the thing about that lawn. That freaking lawn was so bumpy. It was not funny. It was not exactly flat. But with the real mower, they were able to do a cut that both they and I could live with.
Uh, okay, I was typing that in there. Okay, so we are gonna have to wind this up, man. You're gonna have to come back on because we need to add mosquitoes, fleas, and ticks, trees and shrubs, and maintenance, and that way you can start narrowing down on a lot of this to have an all-in-one inclusive program. I am going to share this with you, so that way you can at least see the progress we have made on it. Here, I'm gonna send this to J Pink, and then J Pink can share that with him. And
Uh,
and I think that makes enough sense, at least to get you started in some of the notes we've made. Oh, I'm gonna make a note right here.
for my beds, I use SureGuard, um, 1 ounce for a 4 gallon backpack sprayer, and um, glyphosate at 4 ounces, an ounce per gallon
Hmm.
for my flower
uh,
beds.
Yeah, that's
uh,
perfectly
sh-
fine.
Yep, yep. There's
Sugar.
nothing about that I would change at all. Uh,
Yeah, yeah.
yep.
That's like a solid program. I mean, as far as weed control, I mean, so I have nothing against that. And if it works,
Can
keep doing
bifenthrin
it.
go out with any of those through all of my
No.
rounds anytime?
Okay, wait a
No.
minute. Okay,
Why?
what? Why are you using bifenthrin? For what?
Ticks mainly and fleas for not all of my lawns, but some of them that I already
Okay,
do weed control and fertilizing.
I gotta
Yeah.
tell you
So,
that
man, you got to get a
where
skid sprayer if you want to do that.
because where and how you spray bifenthrin for ticks and other pests is far different from how you spray bifenthrin for like ants and armyworm in a lawn. It's way different because for things like ticks, cockroaches, and mosquitoes, Matt, that is where I use my engine drive backpack. I send it through that machine because 500 psi through an orchard gun
Yep.
I
into
have
the
a
And
Tomahawk
silverweed.
backpack sprayer that's 5
Hmm.
gallons, and I use bifenthrin in that to
That
spray
works.
the beds
Hmm.
in the shrubs and the trees for mosquitoes
Yep,
and stuff like that.
that works.
yeah.
And
But
that'll
I
So
use
also.
the permagrain to spray the lawn.
Hmm. That's
yeah.
fine.
So what I would do, and this is me, and seriously, you're gonna have to come back and so that way we can go through this in more detail because there's a lot of nuance here we need to cover. And if you get with JPEG, we'll have you back on and we'll cover specifically mosquitoes, fleas, ticks, trees, and shrubs, and then building all that into like a
Okay.
single package. But you have to isolate this, and this is where, without a doubt, non-debatable, I would get a skid sprayer. Your average size lawn there is just going to be way too big to do a 5 gallon sprayer
Hmm.
profitably. You're going to want more pressure. You're going to want more gallons per acre of diluted material, so higher spray
Yes.
volume. And
Hmm.
Really?
you're
Okay.
you're not going to be able to get that with just your backpack, right? And nozzle selection, all kinds of other things that you're going to want to do. And there's even like different
Okay.
spray gun selections that you can use to help create more of that wafting effect to get more of like the underside of the canopy and stuff. So
Hmm.
there's
Hmm.
there's a whole nother world, like micro encapsulation of insecticides. It's a completely different game, and we can't just approach it exactly like a lawn. You can't approach it with the same program like you do a lawn. It has to exist on
Okay.
its own. with its own set of methodologies. And I would say even the same thing for trees and shrubs. And that would be actually like maintaining trees and shrubs from a fertility standpoint as well, too. I think
Mhm.
all three of those marry up together as part of a solid maintenance package. And that, with all of that dialed in, that's going to give you the flexibility to be able to pick up 20, 30 customers, and that's all you maintain. And you are able to actually have a fairly nice career just doing 20 or 30 properties where you handle every aspect of it. Okay,
Okay.
it's 10:51. We got to get the F out of here. Thank you. Seriously, thank you for coming on and letting us go through
Thank
all this.
you.
And honestly, get with J Pink again to do this because I do want to go through the rest of it.
Yeah,
And
we're not
if
done
you,
with you yet.
yeah, not at all. And I want you to reach out to your suppliers, get prices on all this material, and let us
Okay.
throw it in and start playing around with the actual budgeting side of things. So that way we can see what it looks like from an actual real business
Perfect.
perspective. Housekeeping,
I
don't forget we
appreciate y'all
have
having me on.
yeah, 100%. Thank you for coming on. We housekeeping. We have a podcast. You can check it out on all the podcast mediums and all that fun stuff. Also, my kids have a fundraiser going on right now. If you want to check that out, or you want to help support Lily and Noah, by all means, feel free. It's there. If you don't want to, you can't afford it. I'm not going to be mad at you, but I thought I would just go ahead and do that because it's for the kids. Damn it. All right, Matt, thanks again. We will catch you all on the flip side. We're going to go hang out with our patrons, patreon.com/burn-and-return. And if you have anything else for us, drop us a line. You can do that at mail@thegrassfactor.tv, or you can just go to thegrassfactor.tv. I think that's got it. Also, don't forget to congratulate Ryan DeMay on his team, his awards, and all the fun stuff he does out there in the world. Love you all. Bye!